Hello and welcome back to Catch and Cook California. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to catch, clean, and cook horseneck clams. Let's go. So the tools of the trade here are pretty simple. Many people will rely on a shovel. I prefer what is called a clam gun. We'll talk more about this in a moment. I might not even use this shovel at all today. Another very important part of your kit is going to be a decent set of waders, and don't bother putting on the upper layer. We're going to be this deep down in the mud. The idea today is I want to teach you how to find, dig, clean, and cook a delicious wild horseneck clam chowder. Let's do this.
Now before we get started today, I guide clamming in the Bay Area, so if you are interested in doing what you see in this video, you can hit me up and I'd be happy to show you the ropes. In the meantime, over the next few days, I'll be guiding rocky intertidal foraging on the San Luis Obispo coast and soon after back up in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live. So if you're looking for a unique experience, you want to get your hands on some delicious, wild, sustainable foods, hit me up at catchandcookcalifornia.com. Now back to the mud flats and some clamming.
So there's no getting around this. This is a muddy business. You are not going to be clean by the end of the day, so you better have some backup clothes and a towel in your vehicle. Probably be getting down to here in order to pull some of these clams up. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice is that there's holes absolutely everywhere. Each of these holes has a sea creature in it. Some of them fat innkeeper worms and gobies and ghost shrimp, and some of them are going to be clams. But the question is, which ones are the clams? So right here, I can actually see an oval shaped hole and that little bump in the middle. That right there is the neck of a horseneck clam. Horsenecks tend to be a little bit deeper, probably about this deep to this deep. This is called a clam gun. I'm gonna shimmy it on down. It's got a hole on top here. I'm gonna put my thumb over the hole and I'm gonna pull that whole column of soil out, release my thumb, shake out the column, and then I can reach down in there and continue to dig. Covering that hole with my thumb, lifting with my knees, shimmy this back out, let go of that thumb hole, shake it out. There's a lot of different methods to doing this, but I think the clam gun is definitely one of the most effective. A lot of times I'll dig one hole and then I dig one right next to it. That allows me to get a little bit deeper, and that way I can come in from the side to grab the clam. Now I'm going to do one right next to it. This one I'm going to go a lot deeper because I'm not worried about breaking the shell way over here. Pull that column up, shake this out, and now I'm going to come in from the side and see if I can find this horseneck. With horseneck clams, you're going to feel the neck of the clam. Resist pulling on it. Don't pull on the neck. If you pull on the neck, you're going to tear it off. And there's a lot of good meat in that neck. And the regulation is you have to keep the first 10 of each of these species that you get, regardless of condition. So if you tear the neck off, you still have to keep it, and it goes towards your bag limit. Now, I've been doing this since I was 2 years old, actually. My oldest memory is digging clams with my family on the mud flats here in the Bay Area. And so I've got a system down, but believe me when I say, it takes some time to get your own system down and to learn how to do this efficiently. So I've got my hands around this clam. I'm gonna break the seal. This guy's not the biggest horseneck, but it's a good size. And there you go, horseneck clam. And let's fill in the holes. And that's very important because this maintains the structural integrity of the mud flat. That way it doesn't erode away and kill everything else that's in here by collapsing their tunnels. It also makes it so that we're not leaving a pile over the top of another clam that might make it hard for it to get its neck up to feed when the tide comes back in. Fill your holes. This is how we keep it sustainable. This is how we make it so that we can come back and do this for generations to come. I would say rinse and repeat, but what's the point of rinsing? We're gonna stay muddy. Let's go look for some more clams. Usually there's more not too far away. Every once in a while you see one like this too. Just kind of extending up, squirting, doing its thing. Come on, buddy. Come on out. Yes. There's another one. All right. They're nice and compact. Another thing you might notice here is when I press down here, you're going to see water coming up right here. That's not a clam. That's probably part of a tunnel that either has a fat innkeeper worm or a goby or ghost shrimp or all three. They call it the innkeeper worm because it acts like an innkeeper, like a hotel, and it allows other occupants in its system and network of tunnels. So when you're walking, if you see a little water bubbling, it's probably not a clam. If you see a full-on geyser, that's a clam. The siphon of the horseneck clam is very tough. And if you can fit 2 fingers down in this hole, that is a very sizable horseneck clam. So I got 2 holes here, and I know that the horseneck itself was right here. I'm going to start to remove the sediments here, and instead what I want to do is find where the neck meets the shell, and then I'm digging in from the side so that I can expose the shell and break the suction of the clam. And these shells are very, very fragile, so it's important that you're kind of gentle with this process, because if you squeeze too hard on these shells, you can crack them and cut yourself. Some people use gloves. I do recommend it, especially when you're starting, but there's a lot of this that's done by feel. So I like to do no gloves sometimes too. All right, so I've got my hand around it, broke the suction, shaking it out, and that's a horseneck clam. And you can see here, that's the clam's foot that he'll extend to kind of hang on to the inside of the mud flat, and he's just retracted his neck all the way down into here. A lot of good meat in these. Now, if you're not interested in clamming and you just want a nice mud bath, I could also guide you for that. This is my fully organic spa out here. It doesn't come with a massage or anything, but you know, if you're into this sort of thing. These guys, the neck will never fully retract into the shell. Look at the size of that clam. That right there is a serious clam. All right, I pulled 6. We're allowed 10 per species, per person per day, regardless of condition. So if it's a little one and it's cracked, you still got to keep it. That's part of your bag limit. I'm not going for 10 because I don't need 10. Believe me, they're all over the place out here. Taking a limit would be no problem at all. But I don't always take a limit because I don't need to. And you don't always need to take a limit either. We're gonna go make a ton of chowder, and I'm gonna have a ton of clams left over. Let's go.
Now to clean a horseneck clam, I use a filleting knife, which has a nice flexible blade, and I run it right along the inside of the shell to sever the 2 adductor muscles. That's what holds those 2 shells together. Then I run my finger along the mantle to separate it out, and again run that blade between the meat and the shell on the opposite face. As I'm running the blade down in here, you can see that I'm severing any connective tissue, and right down in there you can see me severing the 2nd adductor muscle. I remove the clam meat from the shell, and then it's time to remove the edible parts from the inedible parts. So here I'm separating the mantle from the siphon. I'll be severing it up right at the top here, and at the base of it, that's where you can see the adductor muscle. I'm going to take this off of the mantle and set that aside for safekeeping to eat later. Now the mantle itself is totally edible. I'm just going to peel away this leathery skin on the outside, and then that gets set aside as well. Next, I'll be removing the foot from the gut. Now the foot is totally edible. The gut during certain times of year is something you're going to want to discard. Now personally, I don't eat the gut any time of year on this species, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. Here I am removing the 2nd adductor muscle. like a little scallop there. That's going to get set aside. That gut is excellent for crab bait, by the way. Now here I'm going to remove the tip of the siphon. This is dark meat, and any dark meat in this process needs to be discarded, and it's also why I discard the gut. The gut and dark meat are where toxins may reside as a result of these filter feeders feeding on naturally occurring but toxic plankton. So here I've split open the neck. I'm going to give this a solid rinse, and it's also, again, why I discard that gut. So everything here is a sandy business. These were born in the mud and the sand, so you got to wash the living heck out of them. And I'm going to give them a once over here at the cleaning station, and then I'll wash them yet again before I put them in my pot. I'll be honest with you, it's a meticulous process, but there's nothing worse than biting into a spoonful of chowder and feeling the crunch of sand. So be meticulous, it's worth it.
All right, this is the Fire Maple Saturn. This is a new stove sent out to me by this company. Comes in a nice case here, stainless steel. Open up the feet here. This company also makes these cool leather covers for your canister. Kind of keeps it a little more rustic looking. Nice and stable. Gas is controlled from over here. And then it's got a little clicker on the side here that actually provides the spark, so you don't need a lighter either. Really nice stove. I've used it a few times with my clients now, taking them out, teaching them rocky intertidal foraging, and I'll use this to do my mussel boil at the end. So we're going to use this to make our chowder. Got myself a bread bowl already set up and ready to rock. So next thing I'm going to do is fire this thing up nice and coated, and I'm going to sear this bad boy. Get this nice and golden brown. That's going to be the top of my bread bowl. I just want it to be, I don't know, it's not exactly garlic bread, but a nice toasted piece to go on top. Take a look at this. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to start here by heating up some water. All right, so I got my water boiling over here. I'm going to take the clam necks and I'm going to throw them into that boiling water for about 1 minute just to blanch them. Then I'm going to transfer them immediately to ice water, and that's going to help me peel the skin off of those necks. I think that should be hot enough to do it. Clam neck in. Just about 1 minute. I do not want to overcook it. Get that clam neck out and into ice water. Just like that. So get a hold of it, and this should come right off. Look at that. This also offers us one more opportunity to give it a last rinse. You know, these came out of the mud flat, so they require a lot of rinsing. And look at that, nice clean meat. And I have a jar here of dried black trumpets from last season. Heat those up, reconstitute them. And the black trumpet mushrooms are going to provide a whole other flavor profile to this chowder. So the black trumpets are reconstituting right now in this warm water, and the broth that it's making is jet black. So my chowder, even though it is a classic New England style white chowder, a cream-based chowder, is going to be a darker color. Next thing we're going to do, the base of this, which is some bacon.
Now bacon adds all kinds of wonderful flavor as a baseline note to this chowder. Once I've cooked up that bacon, I'm going to chop it up into little bits, and I'm going to cut up my clam into nice sizable portions as well, and all of those are getting set aside. Into that pot, without even deglazing it, I'm going to throw in my potatoes, my celery, and my onions, give it a stir, and then deglaze it by pouring in some clam juice. I'm going to follow that up by pouring in the essence of black trumpet, this black trumpet tea. As I set aside these black trumpets, you'll notice there's still a bit of that broth in the bottom of that jar.
All right, simmering away, I added the black trumpets. Got all of our bacon and clam prepared over here. We're just gonna wait for all this to soften up. We'll get to the next step. We're getting ready to combine this, make a little roux, and make ourselves the final chowder. We only have one fragmented bay leaf, but that's going in. I also forgot to add my garlic. That's going in now. That'll be great. And a few sprigs of fresh thyme. Get that all down in there.
Now I'm melting some butter. I'm going to add in 1 part butter to 1 part flour, whisk it up, and make a roux. All right, now it's starting to brown up a little bit. This is exactly what we want. Adding a little broth in there. Add in that roux. Get all that in there. We're going to make it nice and thick. Ooh, baby. Some half and half. Boom. Oh, baby. That's the stuff right there. Yes. And the moment we've all been waiting for, all those clams, all that bacon. It's going to give it more of that smoky, wonderful flavor. Big chunks of clam because we do not mess around. We want this to be the most clammy of clam chowders ever. This is what I'm talking about. Now we're only going to cook it for about 2 minutes. With the clams in there, we do not want to overcook those clams or they'll be rubbery and chewy. Yes! I want to make sure if there's any final adjustments that I make them right now. Holy, sometimes that happens. It doesn't need anything. I'm not going to add any salt. It's perfect, but I'm going to add a little bit of pepper because I like a little pepper in my chowder. Ooh-wee. I'm glad I didn't add any salt earlier. I think the bacon ended up adding quite a bit, but it's perfect. It's not too salty. It's like well balanced. I've been making this for years now, and the very first time that I made clam chowder with black trumpet mushrooms in it was with my best friend Alex. And the moment we took the first bite, both of us were like, I don't know if I could ever make chowder without it again. Man, I'm telling you, I am so excited right now. Come to Papa. Ooh, take a look at that. Man, doesn't that look nice. Got some oyster crackers the other day. Gotta throw those on top. That is the final product. Black trumpet clam chowder. A true labor of love. Getting some black trumpet on there, getting some clam on there, oyster cracker. Yeah! Wow! Yeah, baby. Worth every second. Oh my gosh. Mmm. Good gravy. Everything's perfectly cooked. Potatoes are nice and creamy. I like to use red creamers and Yukon Golds because they got a real creamy texture. Smokiness from the bacon. Perfect chewiness from the clam and plenty of clam in there. That is gorgeous. Nice, velvety, creamy, and that black trumpet adding that extra layer of flavor in there. Getting it all over my bread. Unreal how good that is. I think the only thing I could have done better here is if I had buttered the top of the bread and put a little bit of garlic on there, so when I seared it, it would be almost like garlic bread. Right now it's more like crostini, which is amazing, but that would be the one thing I think I could improve here. So this is the first of the horseneck clams videos I'm gonna do. I definitely want to do another one talking about other methods of preparation because it's a very versatile, wonderful clam. And it's not the only clam we can get here in Northern California. And throughout California, actually, there's different species, so we'll definitely talk more about clams. But hopefully this inspired you to get out, do some clamming. Hopefully you learned how to do it sustainably. And I sincerely hope that if you do find a good clamming spot, keep it quiet. And if you're getting really excited about the spot behind me, it's not exactly where I dug. So
the spot I dug is still secret. All right, I'm gonna finish this off. I hope you learned some things. And if you did so, please give us a like, leave a comment. I love hearing back from you. And until next time, keep the old ways alive.
One of the YouTubers.
Oh yeah, Catch and Cook California.
From California, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
We've been watching your videos for a long time.
that's awesome. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that.